Hello, thank you for the kind invitation. At the beginning, it is fair to say that I'm also one of the many collaborators, persons who helped VJ put together this excellent, remarkable dossier on NATO. I'm sure that you know that it took us some time. We worked on the dossier and it was published before the summit in The Hague. So here we have this little time difference, time difference to reflect on what is new, if there is anything new after the NATO summit. So today I decided to be a little bit more provocative. Actually, I wrote my own column and published it a few weeks before the summit as well. It was published in English and Spanish and other languages across the world, in which actually in the title and in the text I called for throwing out NATO in the dustbin of history, that it is the final moment, the last moment when we should all say no to NATO and yes to peace. Here in today's discussion, I was wondering how to approach the content, which, as I said, contributed to, but at the same time to make our discussion more provocative, to pose things upside down, or to ask a question in a different way. The title argues that NATO is the most dangerous organization on earth. My question is it so? Is it possible that we are exaggerating NATO as organization, as entity, as a group of states that work together in the field of security? Or the reality may show some discrepancies, some fractures, some weaknesses that we as anti-NATO and pro-peace movements can use in order to really get rid of NATO. To be honest and direct from the very beginning, I fully agree with this sentence that is embedded in the dossier, that NATO serves as a Trojan horse for the United States and its imperial interest. I would say it is like a cover-up or a means to give United States legitimacy. So it is not the empire all alone going and dealing with the world affairs, but there is a group of democratic countries, peace-loving countries that got together to save us from evil dictators or aggressors. I'm talking as someone who comes from a NATO country, unfortunately. One of the smallest, the weakest, the newest ones. It's the Republic of Macedonia in the southern part of the Balkans. Now, having seen the summit, that did not really surprise us, because everything that Donald Trump expressed as a wish since the day of his inauguration, or if not before, have been put on the table, immediately approved in a very undignified way, way very humiliating and I would say disgusting in moment. The whole rhetoric, the way of dealing with the emperor was not really serving well the European leaders, even though I don't have a high opinion about European kakistocracy. But still, it is something that we haven't seen so far in such an open way. Obviously, United States equals NATO and vice versa. NATO cannot go without United States. United States can go without NATO and take some allies. But we have seen, let's sum up, the shortest summit ever, because probably Mark Rutte, the Secretary General, was afraid that if it takes longer, there could be some incidents and inconvenient situations. So he made it short, around 3 hours, one day, a real job, if we forget about the gala dinner of the royal family. Second, it was the most expensive one per minute. And third, the outcome, the declaration, the joint declaration is wishful thinking and so empty in terms of strategic thinking about the depth of this dangerous and mighty alliance that sees itself in the world. It is important on the margins to mention that the usual allies so far often being present at the other summits, the representatives of Japan and South Korea, this time decided not to attend the summit. The most shameful thing, of course, is the unbearable shadow and the burden of Gaza, and they pretended that it doesn't happen. And the second one was practically applause for an act of aggression over Iran. So this happy family in the family photo did not object these two most criminal acts in the international law. So in The Hague, we had this bunch of people who actually should have appeared in front of the courts, face of the courts that are seated headquarters in The Hague. It was a very unique situation to have them all together. Instead, they had royal gala dinners and other events. But let's move on with the summit. The summit proved what we already knew, only that this time some witty people on the social media renamed NATO into North Atlantic Trump's organization. So they personalized the organization because it was a whim of a rather insane person who just decided for 5% of GDP to be extorted from the member states, from the friends, and to actually racketeer them. If you want safety, if you want security, if you want United States to continue giving you security guarantees, then you have to pay. They translated that into burden sharing, blah, blah, but including the deputy of the Secretary General comes from Macedonia. We call her Marie Antoinette, so everything is clear from that nickname. She thinks that Macedonia is able to take over a part of the burden. Unfortunately, even the President of the Republic, our first female President of the Republic, did not say a word against the increase of the military budget. And Macedonia is one of the poorest countries in Europe. How it is going to work was very openly showed yesterday. We saw Mark Rutte in the White House making a deal with Donald Trump over the new quantity of weapons sent to Ukraine, which means that United States are not going to stop the war, but they are escalating because Trump was angry with President Putin. But he emphasized that the bill goes to the European governments. So United States are behaving as an owner, it is their property. So NATO and the European defense industry, which now turns into military industry, is unable to produce enough for their own defense or defense of Ukraine. And United States are going to continue sending weapons, but we don't know how much and what type of weapons, because their arsenals are also depleted. This is also one of the issues that we should keep in mind, that the dynamic of production of the military industry is not as fast as we usually believe. They waste more, invest more, throw more weapons away than they can produce. And that creates this spiral of violence, of arms race. The Europeans are also trying, and ahead of the summit, there was this panel which featured Secretary General of NATO and Ursula von der Leyen together, which talks about the close relationship between NATO and EU, and we don't know where NATO stops and EU continues, or vice versa. They are the two sides of the same coin, even though the membership differs in a smaller part in terms of member states that are not members of one or the other organization. In general, European Union, Europe as such, is militarizing. The second thing is that despite the family photo, despite the joint declaration, and everybody agreed on that, even the ones who said that they would not obey fully the taken obligations, like Spain, Slovakia, even Croatia said something like that. There is disagreement, and obviously some common sense have remained there to realize that it is impossible, unaffordable to provide 5% of the GDP and not to inflict high costs for the societies that would provoke a situation that would provoke, of course, a spiral of political instability, economic, social, and everything else. So they are hurting themselves by following the mind of Donald Trump and US military industrial complex. So there is, I would say, there is some kind of cacophony and rearrangement within the European or Western security architecture, because otherwise, why would we talk about the alliance of the willing again for the second time? it is a mixture of, for example, seeing the UK Prime Minister talking to the President of the European Commission, and then Macron or somebody else. So it is always not in the regular institutions of decision making where everybody is equal and everybody has equal right to vote, one vote, one state, one vote, but they are finding another solutions to bypass the regular channels of decision making and transparent communication with the public. So we have these different forms of reorganization or compositions. We have politicians that don't agree with what's going on. And for me, the most interesting example is what's going on in Slovenia. Many of the colleagues would hardly remember where was Slovenia. Slovenia was a former Yugoslav republic, of course, and now NATO and EU member state. And the interesting thing there is that a part of the ruling coalition is far left political party Levica, meaning the left, who initiated a referendum on 3% increase of the military spending. So they would like to ask the citizens after the summit, after the prime minister said yes to 5%. The prime minister was shocked because this initiative was supported by far right, actually conservative part of the parliament, the former prime minister and president of the republic, Janez Janša, who, because of political reasons and wanting to make a damage to his opponent, he supported this first initiative. As a response, the prime minister is announcing a second referendum immediately afterwards. And he wants to put the right question, the direct question. Are we going to stay in NATO and abide to our undertaken obligations, or we are going to leave NATO and take care of our national security? It is the way how actually Slovenia was pushed into NATO, because the fear mongering and fears that if Slovenia is a neutral country, they will have to organize national army to send their sons to serve regular military service and all that. And they decided at that moment that maybe NATO is a better solution to provide peace. 20 years later, they are aware that there is nothing peaceful anymore in Europe, and their sons can be called for military service if the law is changed. So we will have a very interesting situation. They are not, because I expect a dramatic, I would love, but I'm realist enough to know that it may not really happen, that the public will be still under this pressure of the narrative of we better stay together with our allies instead of going alone. But there will be a short or small space for public debate, for opponent opinions, for dissent, for dissident voices, and people who are going to put things as they are. So maybe that will be a good example for the others to reconsider their national security policies, their obedience to NATO and Washington, of course. So maybe things will start changing from this small forgotten country next to Austria. Um, so here I'm going to stop in order to give Fatul more time for his presentation on a more global level. Mine was merely focused on the question mark if NATO is an organization, a functional, a cohesive, with joint strategic thinking and interoperability of the armies and preparedness. And are they going to war after all? That is the crucial question for Europe these days. Thank you very much.